Hi everyone and good evening. Welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays. This is Naren's Life with MS. I am Naren over here. So on this Thoughtful Thursday, and considering that it's been raining for the past, I want to say an hour and a half. It got me thinking about what your favorite weather might be, right? I mean, people tend to like certain weathers depending on what their, um, you know, what their uh, personalities are, or what where they feel the happiest. And for me, that seems to be the case as well. Although I definitely am one of those people who prefers rainy cool rainy days over any other type of weather. And part of it, I think, also comes from the fact that I grew up predominantly in the tropics. Also spent a good chunk of time in the Middle East, and as a result, I do know the harsh reality of living in a very warm climate. So I would say that when it does rain and um, when the weather cools down a little bit, and also of course having just a little bit of a breeze happening while it's raining, so that you kind of not only experience the rain, not only experience the coolness or the cool weather because there's water falling on you, but because there's also like a nice breeze picking up alongside. So that, I would say, is probably my favorite weather. And I think in addition to that, it definitely helps um, keeping majority of my joints, my legs, my arm, my limbs definitely less inflamed than normal. So it is one of those things where I tend to find that just having a cool rain happening, especially with a little bit of a wind, is definitely my go-to weather. In fact, a lot of times, if I do have trouble sleeping, I usually put on a white noise machine, which tends to simulate um, rainy, rainy, windy thunderstorms, and that kind of sound, that kind of noise also puts me to sleep. So it's definitely one of those things where it definitely helps me a lot. And I think weather does play a huge role in how we're feeling throughout the day. So if the day ends up being a little too warm, and considering that being an MS patient, warm weather is definitely a little bit of a challenge to get through. It generally does impact how I feel about the day. So if a day ends up being a little too warm for my comfort, it does not end up being the happier day, even though the sun is bright, you know the sky is blue. I would much prefer a slightly darker sky with just some raindrops falling on my head. So I do want to turn over the question to you as to what your favorite kind of weather is, especially if you do have an autoimmune condition like MS, or if you do have MS. What's your favorite weather, and which weather does make you happier? I mean, listening to my self talk and understanding what kind of weather I tend to like, I tend to think that maybe my personality is such that I prefer the overcast days. But more so than you know me being all about the doom and gloom, it's more about the fact that it's the cool weather that actually um, keeps me cool. So thinking about it like that. And of course, being one of those people who tends to prefer not using air conditioning, not using the water heater at any point in time, I definitely want to be more in tune with whatever weather it is outside. And of course, if the weather gets a little too warm, it does become a little uncomfortable for me to even have a peaceful day. So yeah, turning it back over to you, what is your favorite type of weather and how does that make you feel? Right, is it sometimes counterintuitive, considering that if you, like me, like overcast days where there's a little bit of rain happening and you end up being happy as a result? um, you know do you find it a little counterintuitive, or is it just that it makes you feel um, the most comfortable at that point in time? So that is my thoughts. Again, I am Naren. This is Naren's Life with MS. So do give your insights and do post your comment on this video, and I would love to interact with you, um, so that we can truly build you know a very diverse community of people who have different preferences, and how they go about handling something that might even be a little uncomfortable for them, but if it makes them happy, how they do end up enjoying it. So yeah, do share your thoughts, do share your stories, and yeah, and I'm all ears for whatever you have, whatever inputs you have. Thanks.